you got two options. The first one, hey, you have to become the best that you can be. And the second option, you have to become the best that you can be, because in this channel, there's no other way. We are going to the top. And speaking of the top, we're going to be building a DeFi swap interface using 0x Protocol and Alchemy, because we're not tied to a single liquidity provider. No, we have the freedom to choose which liquidity provider will give us the best price in any swap transaction, because we have 0x Protocol and obviously Alchemy. Hello.
We are here because money speaks a new language.
I am going full throttle on this one. We're going to be building a DeFi swap interface. This DeFi swap interface is going to allow any user that access your platform, either it's an NFT marketplace. Hey, you have an NFT marketplace. You deploy that beautiful NFT marketplace. Of course, we're using Alchemy. Of course, like, duh. And we need to provide the users the capability of exchanging tokens using our intuitive DeFi swap interface. We're going to be building this DeFi swap interface using 0x Protocol and also Alchemy. Let's go ahead. Let's build the entire platform, web front end, using NextJS, and we're going to be using Alchemy SDK to obtain information regarding the particular user wallet that connected into that DeFi swap interface. What information can we obtain from Alchemy's SDK in this beautiful application that we're building? We're going to be able to display the amount of tokens that a particular user is currently holding. So the moment that user selects, let's say the user selects Polygon, he wants to swap Matic tokens for USDT. Okay, so the user wants to exchange those Matic tokens for USDT. We are going to use Alchemy's SDK to obtain the current token balance from that wallet, so then the end user knows how many tokens does he have available to swap. So we give the information right in the same dashboard. We are then going to do the magic. What needs to happen in this DeFi swap interface? Let's see. So we got the first thing. We are going to write a connect button, a very straightforward connect button that will give us the wallet address of that user. Then, step number 2, we are going to obviously create a very cool, visually appealing, because again, eye candy, ladies and gentlemen, when we build a web interface, we need to make sure that we get that candy there so the users are excited, the users are confident, and the users definitely like the platform, how it looks, okay? So we're doing that. And then there goes the magic. We are going to code the first function. The first function is going to provide the list of tokens that the user can choose from in our DeFi swap interface to exchange. That token list will be provided using API database that we are going to be building in our application. So we are going to generate the list of tokens via an API call, and it's all going to be internal. So the same web front end is going to make a call to the local API to retrieve the token address, the token name, as well as the token picture or the icon. So then once the user clicks that particular token that he or she wants to exchange, we display that in the web interface. Okay. After we're done with that, we are now going to ask the user provide us the amount that he or she wants to swap using the interface. Why? Because we need to obtain that information so then we can send the call to 0x Protocol's API and determine the exchange rate for that particular token. Okay. Once we're done with that, we are going to click swap to. What swap to is going to do? Swap to is basically going to obtain the same API information that we obtain when we call the swap from button. So when we hit that swap from button, we obtain the list of tokens along with the contract addresses, etc. So on the swap to, we're just going to make the same call, but now I need the end user to give me the token that he or she wants to exchange the source token from. So we need to see that. We need to obtain that information so that we can finalize the entire 0x protocol call. We need three things. So then we can do a successful 0x protocol call so that we can obtain the liquidity provider for the token swap. We need the source token smart contract. So we need to know from what token is the end user looking to exchange from, okay? So we need to know the source token that the user is holding that he or she wants to exchange using the DeFi swap. We also need the destination token contract address. So now we need to also tell 0x protocol what that contract address is. So then 0x protocol can determine what liquidity pool is available in the whole DeFi ecosystem participating in 0x. We got Uniswap, we got SushiSwap, we got Curve, we got, there's a lot. So what's going to happen? We obtain those two values. And finally, we need to obtain the amount that the user is intending to swap or wants to swap using the DeFi swap interface. Once we obtain that information, the API call will provide our web front end the amount of tokens that the user will receive. We are also obtaining the liquidity provider who is going to provide us that liquidity. So when we execute the transaction, what's going to happen? 0x is just going to grab that call in the blockchain and is going to proxy. Listen carefully, it's going to proxy that call to the liquidity provider that it's currently available to do that swap. Once the 0x protocol obtains all the information, it's going to use that proxy contract. It's a contract that is running 0x protocol to perform that transaction on our behalf. It's basically a middleman that is going to do the exchange for us. So what's going to happen? The liquidity provider is going to send the tokens to that proxy. The proxy will ultimately send the tokens to the user. That's literally what it's doing on the back. It's just doing a proxy interaction with the liquidity provider and the end user, okay? So once we obtain all that information, we can then perform the swap itself, okay? Once the user hits that swap button, the first thing that he or she needs to do is approve the transaction. What needs the user to approve? It needs to approve that 0x protocol is going to move those tokens, okay? So we need to provide the proxy contract. It's basically, imagine yourself like we're dealing with another wallet. It's not another wallet, it's a proxy contract. However, it's performing the action of moving those tokens from your wallet onto the liquidity provider, okay? So we need to provide approval to that contract, to that proxy contract, to move the tokens from our wallet onto the blockchain and do the transaction with that liquidity provider. Once we get that approval and 0x protocol gets acknowledgement that it got the request approved, then we proceed to do the actual swap, which basically what it's going to look like, it's just going to say, I am the smart contract that is going to do the request to exchange those tokens, and off you go. You hit the swap, prove that swap, and you let the magic happen. We are going to be coding everything here. Let's go ahead. Let's build the entire application. Let's build the web front end, and let's build the JavaScript functions that will make this a reality. Alrighty, let's go ahead and let's make this happen. Of course. An API file that we are going to build that will allow me to provide all the contract addresses, the token, icon path, the name, etc. So all I'm going to do is just create the name. So it's going to be tokens.js, okay? And now let me go ahead and do the next file. The next file that I'm going to be working with, it's the ERC20 token smart contract ABI, because we need to still call the token smart contract itself to request approval to move those funds. So we need to talk to the ERC20 token smart contract and send the approval so 0x can move the tokens from the user wallet to the liquidity provider, okay? So we need to still use an ERC20 token smart contract ABI to make that approval call, okay? So all I'm gonna do as a matter of fact, we're gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna call it engine. I'm just making this name up. We're going to store all the components that we need for this application. So now inside engine, I am going to create another file. Let's call this erc20.json. Okay, so this will be the ABI for the ERC20 token smart contract. The only function that I'm going to use inside this ABI will be the approve. So we are just going to call the approval to the token smart contract so that we allow 0x protocol to move the tokens, okay? Add the entire ABI, so I got it right here. So Control S, let's see, and there we goes. And this is the entire ERC20 smart contract ABI. I'm going to Control S. I am going to add the DeFi swap page file. This will be a separate page file that I am going to create in NextJS that will have the entire web front-end configuration with the JavaScript functions, okay? Then all I'm going to do, I am going to invoke that file in the app itself, so then we can display that in render. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new file inside here. Let's call this DeFi swap.js. Cool, we got it. First things first, what I'm going to do, I'm going to build that token database and I'm going to go through it. I'm going to show you how this thing works. Okay, pay very close attention to this, okay? So all that we need, okay? So when someone wants to do a swap, from the first request, the first thing that I'm going to request to that end user is give me the token that you want to swap from. So the user must have that token in the wallet, and then we will know what smart contract we need to call or we need to provide to 0x. So 0x is aware from what token to what token are we going to swap. So then it finds the right liquidity pool, okay? Or liquidity provider, okay? So with that said, I decided to put the token. So basically all I'm doing is a JSON formatted file, which basically it's going to use the embedded API interface on the local server. So I'm calling myself to get that information. If I have other nodes, let's say you deploy multiple servers running the same DeFi, let's say you want to load balance that load across different servers. So you don't want to load the interface for a major DeFi platform using a single server. No, you want to have multiple servers and spread that load and by placing a load balancer in front of it. So you can place a web load balancer that will just round robin between those nodes, and then you can start switching people between different servers so you don't overwhelm a single server with a lot of requests. All we got to do right now is I gotta tell 0x protocol, hey, this is the chain ID that I'm going to be interacting. So all I have to do, I have to tell the application, hey, which blockchain are we going to be interacting for this particular smart contract? And chain ID 1, it's basically the Ethereum mainnet. This will be the Ethereum mainnet chain ID. This is the token smart contract address for Uniswap. For the Uniswap token, this is the actual token smart contract address. So when we do the call, this address, I am going to send the approval so then 0x can move the tokens from the user wallet, okay? So we also have the name, we have the symbol, this is the token symbol, and the decimals. So the way that the numbering, or at least the way the tokens are calculated, it's with a decimal 18. I used the example from the Alchemy's 0x protocol tutorial that uses the CoinGecko free API file to pull this entire information. Okay, so if you go here, by the way, go under tokens, coingecko.com/Uniswap all, This entire file, it's the entire list of tokens in Uniswap. The entire tokens available in the Uniswap app. So if I use this JSON file, I can obtain all the information that I need. As a matter of fact, I even have like a logo that I can use to display on my site. So if I click that logo, and that's basically the logo for the token. I decided to do a different twist because I don't want to rely on something that is open, like it's public. Again, I'm not saying that it's bad. It's just that I am not in control. If this will have gone offline and my server depends on this particular API destination to open the application, then that's the problem. That's a single point of failure, and you don't want that, because if this goes down, then your application is down. You want to have full control of it. So how do we do that? By creating our own API file. You see where I'm going? That's what I decided to do in this case. So now that you see this, I can actually export this entire raw data, the entire file, raw data, and then find the tokens that I want to allow on my swap, okay? And also, you can add the capability of a user selecting their own token. If it's not available on the list, then you can add the capability of pasting the contract address so the user can do that on his own. So we're not just tying the application to this particular set of tokens. The user can bring the contract if he wants to switch to a different token that I don't have on the list. Okay, cool. Now let's build the DeFi swap. This is where the fun part begins. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to build the web front end so we can see that real quick. I am not going to go too much in details because the purpose here is build the blockchain piece and do the 0x protocol interaction, okay? So what I'm going to do, bear with me. We're first going to import all the information or all the modules that I need to build the graphical interface right here. So I am importing the NextUI React, and this is the NextUI styling library, and all the individual components that I need to use to build my DeFi interface or DeFi swap interface, okay? Awesome. Now we are going to build the function, right? So we are going to export that default function because I want to import that in the application. Okay, so let me do the following. What I'm going to do, I'm going to build the base container, and then we can build on top of that. I just want to make sure that it renders, and then we can just continue adding stuff, okay? So we're building this from scratch. So I am using the container, by the way. This is, again, this is part of NextUI. It's a way to format the site. So I'm going to save it. This is literally the skeleton, and we're just going to be building inside of here, okay? So let me go back. Now on app, what I want to do, I build the site, I build the DeFi swap file. I'm going to Control S. If I go to app, I can import that file because remember, I just exported that file. So I'm exporting the entire function, and then I just need to call it in the app, right? Okay, and all we have to do now, I just have to import DeFi. It should be auto-populating, and sure it does. Awesome. I just imported that. Awesome. And now, if you see here, when you deploy this with NextUI, you have to wrap the entire component, the entire Next.js application under the provider, so then it applies the styling, okay? Below the component, but still wrapped inside NextUI provider. So all I got to do is DeFi swap / and close here, and that effectively, it's importing this particular object or item onto the app itself. And then I'm going to make sure that this is saved. Then I'm going to go to the app and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to save the app, and hopefully we should see something. So let me go back to the site, close this, and let me Control S. And sure enough, I'm not going to see anything because there's nothing on the DeFi configure. So let's start building, and we're just going to go back and start looking at this, okay? So now that I add that, now I can effectively work here. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add some. So we are building the button. We're not going to create the function yet. We want to build that graphical interface first. So basically, I'm just calling a button, and this is the color and shadows and all that. Again, I know that you're more interested in the Web3 scenario, so that's what I'm going to be focusing on. So button, okay, so let me Control S, and this is the word connect. Let me go back onto the page, and sure enough, we got that connect button right below. Awesome. Okay, let's continue. I'm gonna copy. Okay, so below this button, let's paste this in. This is the top, the upper layer on the DeFi swap interface. I'm gonna show you right now. By the way, oh, I forgot one thing. Under tokens, you can see the logo URI. It's pointing to my same machine. By the way, this is the IP of my NextJS server, 38, and then /token image. Where is this folder? This folder is under public. If you go to public, you're gonna have a folder called token image. I'm gonna be providing all the files. And under token image, this is where we are storing all the logos for all my tokens, okay? So I'm gonna Control S and let's go back and see how that looks. We are now starting to see stuff going on. Okay, awesome. So this is the upper part. We just added the upper part. Let me go back. Okay, let's continue. Let's make it a little bit faster so that I can focus on the real stuff. This is a model. So this is going to be a pop-up model that is basically going to tell the end user that they must connect the wallet to continue. So if the user did not connect to the wallet and just click swap from, it's just going to pop up a please connect wallet first, like, you know, a message. So the user must connect the wallet first before getting the token list. Okay. So we're done with that, and I'm not going to see that because unless I click and trigger the action. I'm going to explain to you in a bit. And the first section, it's going to be the swap from. Okay, so there he goes. So the first section is basically from token. So you're going to see this in the upper layer between the header and the from token section, right? And let me go ahead and Control S. Let's go back. And there you go. So from token and the balance. Inside here, we will have the swap from button. Okay, and this is where the user can place the amount of tokens. As a matter of fact, I'm going to delete all this because we don't need this. So all I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back. Let's go to index and let's remove all this because I really don't need this. And I think that should be good. Okay, cool. Let me Control S. Let's go back and see. Perfect. Now we can focus on what we need to do. Cool. So we got the header, we got the from token, we got the source amount. This is the amount of tokens that I want to exchange, and then the swap from. Okay, let's continue. Now I'm going to add the model, but this model is going to be different. I'm going to explain to you what it is. This is the model that is going to show the tokens, the list of tokens. Okay. So let's go back. Let me go below here, and we're going to place that model. So if we go up, we start with a grid, and then the column, and then the card. Inside the card, we are going to display the model. So don't worry, I'm going to show you everything once it's configured. Okay, we got the model. Now we are building the middle row. This middle row is just going to have an arrow that points to the destination. Okay, and then we will add the destination swap to section, and we are going to add this below. You can see that I'm just building, and those are just row, cards, grid objects. Again, if you want to learn more about HTML and web front end, NextUI is very straightforward, very easy to work with. Okay, so we're building the middle part. Let's go back. Now we got the middle part, we got the from. We should see the swap from in a second. Once we start building it, we will see now the destination. This is where the amount of tokens that the user will receive will be calculated and provided by 0x. Now what I got to do below this row, we're almost there on the graphical interface. So to amount, I am just going to obtain the value from 0x protocol. So once 0x tells me the amount that I should be receiving for that swap, I am going to display that in the DeFi swap interface. Okay, so basically right here, I'm going to show that right there. Okay, cool. So let's continue. Now what we need to do, let's go ahead and build the first function, which in this case is the connect button. So let's enable that connect button. Let's display that in the interface. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to import additional modules that I need to interact. Okay. Use state and use effect. So I need to use those two hooks, React hooks, to get one of them is to be able to retrieve the value once we do the calls and store that. So we can use that hook to display and interact with my other functions. And also use effect. So every time that there's an update on the application, then I can re-render the values or I can recalculate. For example, what great example that I can show that use effect will take effect. Use effect will take effect, okay. It's every time that someone types a number, so let's say I type 10, then I type 12, that moment on, I have to recalculate. So I have to regenerate the 0x protocol call and get the values displayed right here, okay? Or get the calculation displayed on the to amount section, okay? So what I'm gonna do now, I am going to continue here. Okay, so I added the use state. We are going to also use the Web3 module. So this is the Web3.js module because I am going to use the way utility so I can convert some values. It's very straightforward. And then I am going to implement a couple of things. I am going to import the ethers library. I am going to import the ERC20 token smart contract. This is the ERC20 token contract that we have exported the ABI. I'm going to provide the files in the GitHub. So don't worry, you're going to have access to everything. Okay. And also I am going to obviously include the Alchemy SDK. Okay. With Alchemy's SDK, I can then perform that call to get the token for a particular wallet. Let's take a look real quick in Alchemy's documentation. Instead of NFTs, we're going to be interacting with ERC20 tokens. Get token balance. Okay, with this call, I can then obtain the amount of tokens that a particular ERC20 token wallet is holding. Okay, and then I can find based on accounts. So I am going to, in this case, the demonstration here on Alchemy site, it's using the USDC contract, and basically this wallet address, it's going to be used to verify how many USDC coins does it have, okay? So with that said, let's go back and we're gonna be working with that. So those are all my use states that I will be using during this operation. Basically, I am obtaining the from logo, the get from logo. You're gonna see all those functions as I go along. So this is for me to store all that in memory so then I can use the same values to perform other calls. Basically, it's the hook. I am just obtaining the value from one function to use in another one. I am going to head to, by the way, I gotta go to alchemy.com and we're gonna sign in. And I'm gonna show you something that I just did. I had to create a new app in the Alchemy's dashboard, and I basically created an app that talks to the Ethereum mainnet. And you can see already here that I've been playing with it because I'm building the app. So I am calling the Alchemy get token balances. From there, I am obtaining the balances for a particular token on a wallet. Okay, so let's go back. Now, what we need to do, we are going to obviously talk to Alchemy. So we are importing the config, right? And then I am applying the API key. And by the way, this is not the right way to store the API key, but this demonstration, I'm going to do it this way. But again, you don't want to leave that in clear text. I have a very cool video that you want to see to properly store those API keys and make sure that they're not public facing, okay? I am going to invoke the Ethereum mainnet network, right? So that Alchemy's SDK knows exactly which mainnet it's going to be interacting with, okay? Now, this is the command, or this is the URL that you definitely want to pay attention to. Everything you have to pay attention, but this one in particular is very important. This is the magic right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the API address to interact with 0x. So what I ended up doing, I created a variable called 0x API. And inside here, this is the API URL that I will be interacting with. If you are going to be working with a testnet, this is the production URL. This is to talk to the Ethereum network, okay, or the Ethereum mainnet. If you want to talk to Goerli, you are going to type goerli.api.0x.org, okay? So if you are going to work with the mainnet, you type, just api.0x.org. Okay, so make sure that's where you are going to change this value to the network that you're going to be working with. I assume you're going to be working with testnets because you want to do some test token transactions and swaps. But then production-wise, this is the address, okay? And we will be using this across the entire application. So now that I have all that, I can start building the functions. We still have a couple of things that we have to do as far as hooks, but I want to build the functions so that we can go along, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to build that connect button, okay? So what I'm going to expect, okay? What I'm going to expect is once I connect the button, it's just going to call the Web3 model. It's going to generate that connection. And it says Web3. Oh, you know what? I think it's because I haven't added the Web3 on it. And now, yeah, so this is a global bar. I'm going to use it across the entire app. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create that connect button. The connect button is basically going to have the just a normal Web3 call to obtain the wallet address. So then I can create the use state, store the account value that I obtain here under get wallet. So then I can use this value anywhere I want. Okay, good so far? Cool. Remember, we're going to use this for 0x. So we have to tell 0x, which is the source wallet that is performing the call. Cool, awesome. So now with that connect, I can effectively go under the button right here. This is a connect button, and we're going to just type on press equal connect. Okay, so once I type connect, let's see, it turned on. Awesome. So now if everything goes well, I should be able to obtain the value for wallet address. So let me make sure that I am displaying wallet address. So right at the end in the web interface, I am going to display my wallet right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and save it and give it a shot. So let's go here. I'm going to Control S. Awesome. Way better. Awesome. Okay, now we know that we're connected. You can see here that it's connected. And now we got the wallet address. Awesome. Let's continue. Okay, this is very important. Okay, list from tokens. Pay attention to this one. The first thing that I'm going to do when the user hits that swap from button that you are going to see, right? And as a matter of fact, we should be able to see that now, or I guess not. No, not yet. So list from tokens, what it's going to do, it's going to talk to my API. Remember, the local API that we built, tokens, this is the API address, okay? From there, once I get the list of tokens, I am going to generate a DOM to get the information and display that in the model. There's going to be a pop-up model that is going to show the list of tokens, okay? Once we do that, we're going to build a for loop. So it goes over every single token in that JSON file, every single token, and then populates that token on the list, okay? If we go back, from there, right, we are going to say, hey, let's create an element. This is using the DOM, so we're just going to create a new element, a new div element, and then we're going to build a row. And inside the row, we are going to show the logo URI. The logo URI is basically the logo. So what I'm going to see the logo, and then next to the logo, I'm going to see the name of the token. Again, all this information, where am I getting this from? I am getting this from the API call. So if we go back, you're going to see right here the data that I'm looking for. It's the logo URI and the symbol. That's the data. If we go back, you're going to see the logo URI, and this is the path that it's going to use to find the picture, and then the data, or in this case, a symbol, and that's what it's going to show to the right, okay? Sweet. Okay, once we're done with that, we effectively are going to display that to the user, okay? And now we are going to open that function so then the user can interact with the application. Select from. Select from, what am I going to look for? I am going to look for the token that the user has selected. I am going to store that in this particular select slide array, okay? And I am going to populate all the information. Listen carefully. The close handler is to close the model, okay? So this is just a button to close the model. But I just need to get the input from the user. So once the user hits the token that he or she wants to swap to or from, I am going to get the information and I'm going to store all that data in use state, okay? Which is populated right here. You can see everything turning on right now. Got it? Let's continue. Now I am going to make two API calls. Okay, check this out. With display balance, I am going to talk to the Alchemy core in the SDK to get the token balances. Remember that function that we were talking about? We are getting the token balance using Alchemy SDK right here. So this is what we need to find. We need to get the wallet address. How are we getting the wallet address? We are getting the wallet address when the user connects, right? We get the wallet, the value that we obtain from this call, it's stored in account, and then we effectively pass this to the hook, and then from there we get wallet. Wallet has that value that we can use anywhere else. Now that we get the wallet, we are now obtaining the contract address. This is the token that I am swapping from. So I am going to obtain from address, or this is the token address, from the select from model. So when the user hit that select from model, we are calling from address right here. Token.address, it's my contract address, which then gets stored in the use state. If we go up to the use state, from address, what's the actual use state hook value? FADDR. If we go back down, we should see FADDR, okay? So that will be my contract address, and then I can use that to call the API using Alchemy's SDK, okay? Once we obtain that information, we're going to store that under data, and then I'm going to find from data token balances, right? And then from there, inside that call, I am going to get the item. So the item is any value that I need to use in my call. From item, I want to obtain token balance. So you can see right here. The value that I obtain from Alchemy is hex. So we are effectively converting this to decimal. Okay, so item token balance, it's the result from this call. We are converting it from hex to decimal and passing it as a string. Then that bar will be number Web3. We're going to use the Web3 utilities from way, and please convert whatever you got from here. And that will be the big number converted into a normal decimal number. Then I'm going to strip everything from the decimal location only to 2 digits, only 2 decimals. So it's just going to show me the last 2 digits after the dot in the integer, okay? Finally, if the token balance equals this entire liner, then just display 000, which means that if your result from Alchemy's SDK is this value, just display 000 on the token balance because the user has no balance for that token. Else, if the user actually has a balance, that means that this is not going to match, then this will match, which means that display under the get balance element by ID, display the balance. What's that balance? It's this right here where we formatted that onto decimal. Okay, good so far? Awesome. So now we know how to display the balance on the application. Then we are going to do exactly the same call as we did from list from tokens, but now we're just going to list 2 tokens. So now I need the user to tell me what list of tokens, from the list of tokens, which token they want to use to swap, okay? So once it's done, it's very similar. I am going to obtain the token list by making the call to the API, my local API file, and then from there I can grab that information and store this value and show that on screen to the end user, okay? So I will be showing that in the model itself. After I obtain that value, check this out, I am going to tell the end user, tell me, I just gave you all the list of tokens that you want. From there, I need you to tell me from the entire result that you got, tell me what token do you want, and then we're just going to proceed to store all the information inside the tokens, the token that the user selected onto another variable. So then I can use that to store this in the used state, okay? And finally, I am going to call display balance. So if we go back to display balance, this is the entire function. It's just going to show the balance for that, because not only am I asking the user, get me the token, I am also generating the display balance. But I am going to display that information until the user selects the destination token, or to what token is the user intending to migrate or to convert to or swap to, okay? We have a lot. We definitely have a lot, and I'm trying to cram as much as I can onto one video. I suggest you run this yourself and understand how the order of operation works. It's not difficult as long as you understand that I need to call this first so that I can call this so that I can call this. It's all of an order, okay? So now I got all that information. Now I not only have the source or the from token, I now have the to token, from which token to what token, right? So once I'm done with that, I can effectively call, right, the price, finally. When the user finally populates the entire from and to, the user will start typing what amount does he or she wants to swap, okay? The moment the user starts typing, I am going to listen for that input, and then I am going to compare if from address to address, if you get this information, this information and this information, I need to have those three. I got to get the from token to the token destination. I need to get the amount that the user provided, dot value, which is the value of the information that the user input in that box, then proceed to continue, right? I need to match all this, else it's not going to continue. Once I match all this, I got all that information, then I'm going to proceed with the amount, okay? I am going to obtain from the input that the user did on the interface, I am going to multiply that by 10 by the decimal units of the token. Okay, go back. Let's say the user typed, okay? Let's say the user typed 10, right? So the user has typed 10, okay? What I'm expecting to do, this is a lot of math, and the user wants to get those 10 tokens converted into USDC. What I need to then multiply to convert this to a big number is that I have to multiply this by 10, then by 6. You see what I'm going? Because that is the decimal. So I have to multiply by 10 power of 6, which means that I am going to use this to determine the big number amount in USDC. Okay, then I have to multiply that and convert that to a big number. Now, once I get that, I am going to populate all the parameters that I need to make the API call to 0x protocol. I am going to get the cell token address. This is the value, by the way, that 0x protocol is expecting. Okay, so we are going to go to documentation and 0x API. And this is a good example right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call the API address, then I'm going to call the endpoint. Then I want to call quote, which is the action to get. And then I'm going to tell 0x, hey, the token that I'm going to use I want to buy DAI, I want to exchange my ETH, and I want to exchange this amount. This value right here that we are going to pass to the call, it's basically the parameters. So everything right here that I'm populating in Next.js is the actual parameters, all this. And then we're going to build the entire URL with that information. Then from response, I am going to fetch. What am I going to fetch? I'm going to call the 0x API var that I created not long ago. And then we're just going to populate the entire thing. And I'm doing two examples. I'm calling price and I'm calling quote. Those are two different results, but you can get away with quote. With quote, I can do everything, okay? I'm just giving you two APIs, but they mostly give you the same information, okay? I am going to wait for that fetch to complete, and I'm going to store anything that I got from that fetch onto this var, which is swap price JSON, swap orders, etc. Okay. From there, I'm going to get the item that I need to use to display, okay, liquidity provider on the application. From here, I'm going to get DeFi source. DeFi source, I'm going to apply that into HTML. And if we go to the site, this will be provided right here. This is going to populate whichever liquidity provider is available to give you that swap transaction, okay? And once we are done with that, I can then determine the amount that I'm going to receive in the swap itself, because 0x has given me the output. And then based on the estimated price of the token during the action, then I can determine, hey, how many tokens am I going to have? This is literally the math. I am going to get my list of tokens time the calculation to convert that into the destination decimal. So once we're done with that, we are also going to get the amount that we will receive in the swap, and finally the gas estimate. The gas estimate, I'm just going to display whatever I get from the API fetch .estimate gas, okay? And that will be displayed in gas estimate. So if we go down, I can see gas estimate right here, and right here is going to populate that information. Because so far it's long. I know it's long. And well, we're there. And as a matter of fact, this is the last one. There's a couple of things that we have to do, but this is the big function right here, the swap function, right? This is the magic right here. So from swap it, what I'm going to do, we are effectively awaiting the user to hit that swap button. And what I'm going to do, I am going to make sure that I do have the values from token to token. I got the amount, and I'm going to basically make the same call. The only difference that I did here, this is to get the price and display the information to the user. So then the user can determine if they want to swap or not. This is to actually make the call, okay? So once I make the call, what I'm going to do, I am going to get from amount, right? All the same functions. I'm going to build the parameters so then I can do the 0x protocol call, and I'm going to fetch. What am I going to fetch? The 0x API swap B1 quote, okay? And then I'm just going to populate the parameters that I obtain here, which is basically going to do the entire URL path. If we go back to the documentation, so what I'm doing with those parameters, I am basically creating this entire call right here. All this information, I'm basically generating it with those parameters. If we go back here, this entire information will format the entire URL. So then I can call that, okay? I will be fetching 0x API, swap B1 quote, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to store quote, right? I'm going to store quote, get quote.json, right? So all the information that I obtained from that fetch is going to be stored on quote. Check this out, proxy, okay? The first call that I have to do to the blockchain is to approve the 0x contract, that 0x protocol smart contract, from moving those tokens from my wallet. How am I going to do that? I have to send an approval. I have to send an approval to the token smart contract itself to tell, hey, I own a couple of tokens and I want this particular wallet to allow it to move those tokens on my behalf. So we have to tell that in order for 0x to move those tokens from the wallet. So that has to be a pre-transaction approval that we have to do, okay? So how we do that? First of all, I need to know what the 0x protocol's address is, so then I can get that information, the address, and populate that inside proxy. Once we get that, then obviously I am going to store the amount of tokens that I want to swap to string, so then I can make an ethers call. What am I going to do? I am going to populate the token address as the source, the smart contract, and this will be the from tokens. In this case, if I select the Polygon to migrate from Polygon or swap from Polygon, this will be my token address right here, right? And then from there, the ABI, remember the ABI that we imported, this is right here. And then finally, the signer. Who's the signer? My wallet. I'm going to send that call myself, okay? And finally, I'm going to send that approval. Once I get that approval, check this out. I obtain that approval. I am going to tell, hey, approve the proxy to move those tokens and the amount of tokens that I'm going to be moving, right? So I send that. I confirm with MetaMask. Now we are going to send the call to the 0x protocol with this transaction parameter. So once I get the approval, now I can proceed to make the call to 0x. I am going to get the user wallet, right? My address. I am going to tell the quote to, right? What token am I going to swap to, okay? The value, this will be the entire amount of tokens, the gas price, and the gas itself. When I say null in the gas price, and I found out in MetaMask, if you type gas price null in your MetaMask call, you are telling MetaMask to not use the site's gas fees calculated, okay? We can let MetaMask select the best price based on the market, which works. Okay, if you want to apply EIP 1559, then we can do that, but I haven't done this on this particular video. I just selected null. Okay, finally, gas, quote.gas. And we will pass all that information and send the call. We're just going to do an ETH send transaction by calling the transaction parameters. Got it? Cool. Once we do that, we're effectively interacting with the 0x protocol smart contract. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to use this very cool use effect. What it's going to do is going to await for a second. So when the user starts clicking here or like starts typing a number, you know, how many tokens, I don't want to start generating the calculations right away. I want to wait for like a second or like 2 seconds and then make the call, because if the user decided to change or it did a mistake, I don't want that to start auto-generating and start populating values right here. I want to wait for the user to to finish typing, and then I will generate that. So what I'm doing is a use effect to make that happen. Basically what it's going to do, it's going to call get price the moment it finalizes the entire count of 1 second. So if someone types on the web front end, types the number, we're going to wait a 1 second. We're not just going to render right away. We're going to wait 1 second, hold on, then proceed to calculate, okay, and send the call to 0x and all that. We don't want to do that real time because that could cause issues, okay? And that's it. That's about it. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to populate the entire HTML so then everything connects, and we will take a look and see how that works, okay? Yeah, let's go ahead and Control S, and let me go ahead and connect. Beautiful. We have connected, and now you can see swap from. Where this is actually written, if we go back to the site, let's go back up. Swap from. It's basically swap from. The moment this gets populated with a value, then this will be taken out, and then instead this will replace it, which in this case is the token itself. Okay, so let's go back. So now we're going to swap from. There we go. We're getting definitely the call to the API because we're getting all this information populated. Okay, so with that said, what I'm going to do, I am going to click Matic. That will be my source token, right? I do have some Matic on my wallet. And this is my main wallet, right? This is one of the wallets that I'm using. So what I'm going to do, I am going from Polygon. I want to swap to USDC. Okay, so we're going to swap to USDC. And sure enough, we got the balance. Awesome. Okay, so we got the balance from Polygon, right? Now, check this out. If I type amount, I should be able to get the amount of USDC coins that we will obtain on the swap, and we will get the provider and the gas fee and all that. So let's say I have 34 Polygon. I'm going to swap 30. So wait 1 second. Boom. Okay. So if I make this swap right now from Polygon, 30 polygons, I'm going to get 21 USD coins, 94.94. Okay. And now we get the liquidity provider that is going to provide that transaction. How am I getting this call? From 0x get information. So I'm going to press F12. Let's expand this. This is the actual call through 0x. I am getting the gas price, the gas itself. So let's see if this is the number that we're seeing on the model. So 1351. And you can see 1351.79. Okay, awesome. Now we got the buy amount. Right? This will be the amount of tokens that I will be receiving in exchange for the swap. So 21.94. Awesome. And the liquidity provider. So the LP provider. Let's take a look at that. So if we expand sources, this is where the information will be at. So if we go back, when you look at the JSON API result or the response, we are looking for proportion 1. So this is the one that matches. Uniswap E3, that means that this is the provider that is going to allow me to swap those tokens. Okay? When I click swap, what it's going to do, it's going to send the first call, which is approve to move the tokens. So if I click swap, I should be getting the prompt. Okay, let's take a look and see how that looks. So what it's basically telling, it's calling the actual Matic smart contract. and it's telling the Matic smart contract, I want to approve 0x Protocol to move 30 Matics from my wallet, and the smart contract for 0x Protocol itself. So the moment I approve, then the 0x Protocol can move those tokens from my wallet. So if I confirm, I should get the actual confirmation that 0x Protocol can move those tokens. Okay? Awesome. We got the approval. Sweet. Now, what it's saying? Now, let's take a look and see the next transaction. Sell token for token to Uniswap v3. Awesome. Which means that I will be, by the way, I'm not going to do that because it's like $9 a transaction, but I am going to, now if I hit confirm, I am effectively swapping my polygons to USD coin. So it's going to swap token for token using Uniswap v3. So it's going to swap that amount to this amount, okay? If I hit confirm, 0x Protocol will just get those tokens and boom, do the magic on my behalf, okay? Alrighty, I'm going to wrap it up. There's a lot, but we got this up and running. What I'm going to do on the next video, I am going to add liquidity to our custom ERC20 token, and we will swap that token. You like that, huh? You definitely like that. Alrighty, long video, but make sure that you play with this. This is awesome. This is awesome. One thing that I know that you now know, it's how easy, and you thought it was difficult. It's not difficult. It takes a lot of dedication, but it's not difficult. What different is from a normal transaction? We're just sending some tokens and expecting some tokens in return. However, the order of operation is very important because we need to make sure that we provide to 0x Protocol the information through the API. So we need to obtain all those values from the end user. The end user has to provide the token that he wants to exchange for and the token that he's going to use as the collateral to do that change. So we obtain all those values, and then 0x Protocol can provide us everything in the back and do the call for us, okay? Alrighty, so that's it for this video. Long, but very, very, very informative. I hope that you enjoy this training. I hope that you now practice, because remember, practice is perfection. Hey, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.